Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with the serial story, Evolution. And it's time for us to dive with the Medusa's Dream. Into the diving bell with the Naturalist. Submerge yourself. Sink. Keep sinking. For this expedition, you must be in optimal health to stand a chance at survival. You will also need to bring along an appalling secret that you received from the Court of the Wakeful Eye. Once you dive, you'll be occupied for a significant time. I think I'm in pretty good condition. My nightmares are not brilliant, and neither's my suspicion, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Never in your memory has storm raged quite like this. Waves slam your ship. Spray lashes your crew, actually drawing blood. Glimfall booms in the water, froth erupting overhead with each impact as crags plunge from the roof. You're hunkered inside the Medusa's Dream with the Youthful Naturalist. Shards of glim ping the metal, sprinkling like sleet. But the compass still sings, even louder than storm. With a deafening splash, the depths swallow the bell, silencing the shouting crew, the roaring tempest, everything but the compass. Its song settles into a low hum. Darkness, stillness, serenity, and the whole undersea pressing down. We gain some shards of glim there. As you sink, the compass trembles. This way, that, nudging your course. Metal fins outside the bell gently steer the Medusa's Dream, which floats onward, downward, like a clockwork Z creature. Carganian light bulbs illuminate the gloom. Gauges measure the pressure. Chemical blood in glass veins. There's barely room for two, but the Youthful Naturalist has brought journals, books, charts, and jars. The specimens. We can look through the porthole, gaze into the murky depths surrounding you. New sights will appear outside as you descend. The Carnet's light bulbs aren't necessary yet. All around your diving bell, luminous jellyfish swarm. Rippling yellows and phantasmal greens, frills burnished with gold, blues in so many hues, turquoise, aquamarine, Apocyan. That where the flesh ends, where the water begins, seems to fluctuate like a shadow moving under the waves. Another shadow, deep purple, looms into view. A jellyfish, says the Naturalist. Toxic tentacles on that beauty. Rare to see one with the Otala Ozis like this. They're the glowing group. My specialty. Well, let's descend fathoms down. You sink downward, spiraling at a leisurely pace. Where the currents flow, your compass guides you. The bell's fins automatically bend, sensitive to sorrows in the water, and all the gleaming instruments in the cramped cabin provide readings. Isolation, heartache, revenge, torment, melancholy, misanthropy, madness. The Youthful Naturalist dutifully records the sequence. Let's see what we can see through the porthole now. In the water above, bound sharks are circling a fresh shipwreck. Debris floats down past the porthole. Furniture from torpedoed cabins. A great cannon. A figurehead blown from a prow carved with an angel's likeness. And, of course, bodies. Most sink. Others struggle to swim, but the bound sharks will see to that. The Youthful Naturalist looks away. Let's descend. It's going to cost us 2 actions, oh my. Something bumps against the bell. The light bulbs flicker. 1 pops. The youthful naturalist braces himself and then starts to giggle when nothing else happens. His giggling sounds more like gargling, as though he had a bubbling quagmire in his throat. He wipes amber sweat from his forehead, nervous laughter still spluttering out. Okay, let's look through the porthole. Another face peers back through the porthole. Bloated flesh and bloodless tatters, ripped bone visible, slimy hair undulating like kelp. Green teeth overgrown with algae, set into a snarl when the drowny suddenly notices the youthful naturalist. He pulls away from the glass and swims into the darkness. "Probably going to tell the others," says the naturalist. "They don't like me coming down here, always try to send me up again, but they won't stop us this time." Okay, let's descend down. 3 actions. Getting expensive. Down and down and down. The compass needles click steadily. The filaments in the light bulbs buzz. You can only hear them because there's no other sound. Hours pass. You're still sinking. The naturalist is studying his notes again. He flips through pages filled with spines, long and serrated, short and barbed. Toxic, according to his annotations. This one comes from a sea urchin. This one comes from a fish. This one kills in 7 minutes. This one, 7 breaths. A lot of 7s going on here. I'm getting flashbacks to my Sunless Seas playthrough when we met the Black Lady. Look through the porthole. Far away, almost too far to see in the gloom, a veritable behemoth of the deep, a midnight whale. At this distance, however, it's only as large as your thumb. But the creature is embattled with an even bigger beast. If the whale is your thumb, then its foe is your entire hand. And its foe is nothing but hands, arms, hands, arms, hands, and arms. In the millions. They wrestle with the whale like tentacles. Once you've descended to a greater depth, you still hear the midnight whale's lament. Its song will live in the water long after its death. Let's dive down. How long have you been diving? 10 hours? 15? You watch the compass needles spiral. They glisten, tipped with toxins themselves. 1 drop could burn straight through a human heart, dissolving the strongest passions. And any skin, muscle, or bone that might get in the way. The Medusa's dream groans. Metal strains. Gauges gradually climb. Let's look through the porthole once more. Nothing but blackness outside. Unless there's a deeper colour within the blackness. Pelican or Gant, perhaps. The longer you stare, the more you begin to see shades. The blackness that conceals, the blackness that reveals, the blackness before death. The blackness after isn't here, you're not deep enough yet. Patterns appear, black on black, and you can finally distinguish between them. Geometries, deep Z anatomies, secret words, inky black, that can only be read in the dark. Does the youthful naturalist see them too? His eyes are closed. Maybe he does. Descend down. 5 actions this time. Jellied eels, more jellied eels. Hours? Hardly. By now, days and nights have elapsed. If days and nights even exist at these depths. With jellied eels for breakfast lunch, supper. You know, says the youthful naturalist, I never meant to empty out your larder. It's just that I couldn't let myself get, well, like this. He examines his increasingly emancipated figure. I thought eating might ward it off. Not eels specifically, but anything to put weight on. Don't get too bony. That's what I said to myself. For all the good it's done. Oh, let's look through the porthole. Something sparkles outside the porthole. The light bulbs catch a slender column, rising crookedly from the Z floor. What sparkles is the column's pointed tip. It's a spine, says the naturalist. An enormous spine, taller than a cathedral spire. More cluster around the first. They stick upward, outward, everywhere. Dark purple barbs gleaming in the light after unknown ages in the dark, with tips that could skewer battleships. Their bristling crowd must extend for miles. You're looking at a forest, you're also sinking into it. Deadly points twinkle like drowned stars all around. That seems bad. I feel we don't want to descend into this. Let's descend. Fathoms yawn. This one is one action. Now the compass is singing again. Its pitch rises into a shriek. Its needles spin so viciously they threaten to puncture the amber bubble that suspends them. They feel despair everywhere, says the naturalist. We're entering a graveyard. No, a cesspit where the flukes cast their regrets. Everything they wanted to forget, extracted into spines just like syringes, thrown away, collected by the Untersee's currents and gathered neatly right here. The Medusa's dream lurches, disoriented as the compass wails. We'll have to take over, steering ourselves. Oh no. This seems bad. Let's look through the porthole. Another submersible vessel is caught on the spines. Not simply caught, speared from every angle. Giant needles have torn through the hull as though it were tissue paper. That must be the Fortis kettle, says the naturalist. I read about this in the files from the Admiralty. The crew survived for a time. They were still in contact with Station 3, even harvesting fluke spines to export, but I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Rust has devoured the wreckage, along with algae, coral, moss. There are no lights in the ship. Curious fish swim through broken portholes. We went to the Fortas kettle in Sunless Seas, I believe, when we got our submarine. Okay, so we have a few options. We can steer around globs of corrosive gilt. Black sludge, almost like tar, oozes down the spines clustered nearby. Remember when I said my high suspicion probably won't be a problem? Oh boy. We can steer around the prickling fears. Sunken at these nightmare depths, they have only grown more potent. Or we can steer around the glittering faux pas. Embarrassment twinkles on a giant needle's tip like a counterfeit diamond. Well, I guess I'm going to go for the nightmares because it gives us a 90% chance. Let's cross our fingers. Fear. Horror. Shivers that run down your spine. So close. Always under the bed, hiding in the closet. Knives and teeth and locked doors, bolted, chained. The compass needles speak to you. They whisper, mortified, and you listen. You understand. You tell the youthful naturalist to kill the lights. Pure darkness surges from the deep. The Medusa's dream is engulfed. You can't see where you're steering. You don't need to see. Okay, should we look through the porthole again? That's the Fortas kettle, okay. I'm just going to try and steer around the prickling fears again, since it's the highest chance we have, and I don't fancy failing this. We succeeded again. You don't need to see where you're steering. Anything new at the porthole? No. Station 3 again. Okay, let's... Nightmares again. We succeeded again. We're at Troubled Waters 7. Hopefully that's not a problem. Do I need to pass each one of these, or do I just keep passing the same one? We're apparently getting the same... Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let's descend. Fathoms yawn. Spines caress the diving bell. Poison in the water. Regrets bubbling. You slip between them, gliding deeper through their toxic maze, spiraling, still spiraling. Now the compass is spiraling steadily too. Its needles are aligned again, humming in harmony, pointing directly downward. At least half your light bulbs are broken. An aspirational crack is slowly growing across the porthole. The gauges twitch fitfully. Sparks rain from mangled wires. The Youthful Naturalist scrapes oily residue from an empty tin. Well, the eels were good while they lasted. Oh dear. Our diving bell appears to be falling apart. We can sink into the Fathom King's Court. Lovely. I enjoyed my time here last time. The Medusa's dream is damaged. Your provisions are gone. From the depths, his complexity sends his courtiers to attend your descent into his possession. When ships sink, when sailors drown, they belong to the Fathom King. At his pleasure alone are fish caught, wrecks plundered, and anything under the waves brought ashore. Down, down, and down you sink, surrounded by everything lost at sea. Great galleons long rotten, glittering treasures, bottles, 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 filled with words never received, skeletons, their bones made into homes for sea creatures, anchorite crabs lodged in skulls, rib cage reefs, and now the Medusa's dream joins the pile. Brownies flank the diving bell. One peers through the porthole at the Youthful Naturalist, bares her algae-covered teeth, and snarls. Its complexity sits upon a sea stone throne, observing you with milky eyes like the bellies of dead fish. He addresses the Youthful Naturalist. Again, yet again, always sinking. You know that I will send you back, but perhaps I'll keep that bell, put an end to this farce. If you continue to dive, you may disrupt deep sediments. What payment could you offer for that? What prize would ever compensate? Well, apparently, we can offer the naturalist's greatest shame. You received it from the wakeful eye. When you hold it, your heart aches. Dead bellies no more. His complexity's eyes roll back, revealing pupils on the other side. Pupils that pierce and pull with their gaze. Fish hooks for the mind. Adequate tribute. How unusual. He turns the offering over in his palm. Ruby light ripples. Then, with his fish hook gaze, he tugs at the Youthful Naturalist, and something snaps like a thread. Bubbles roil around the Medusa's dream. Brownies swim away. The Naturalist clutches his chest, gritting his teeth. Go ahead, he tells the Fathom King. Vivisect me, strip me to the bone. Just more guts to study, more data points. I'll stay still, I'll even take notes. But you're already sinking again. Below the Fathom King's court, there are trenches unknown to any mortal soul. Trenches from which even the lawn flukes would recoil. Other submersible vessels would be crushed by the undersea's pressure. but the Medusa's dream still spirals down. The compass needles are assured. They point toward a monstrous regret. All the lesser sorrows are above you now. From this depth, they almost register as joys. Let's reminisce with the Youthful Naturalist. Outside the porthole, pure darkness. Only contemplation remains. I can still feel the hole, says the Naturalist, where the Fathom King ripped out. What did he rip out? Can't remember, but there are fringes around the edges, like fabric. All these loose threads, tattered memories, people whispering, staring, telling me what to do, telling me who I should be. Friends, but they weren't really friends. Adults when I was a child, professors when I was a student, priests. Everyone knew better, even my parents. He stops himself, brows furrowed in concentration. It's the damnedest thing, but I barely remember them at all. Let's descend. Even with the levers at the diving bell's cramped helm, you couldn't adjust its descent any more if you wanted. Its fins are aligned so precisely with the spiraling currents that with the slightest deviation, opposing riptides would shred the submersible like a head of cabbage. One of the gauges suddenly explodes, broken glass, boiling quicksilver, your own blood dripping on the instruments. Ow! Let's see if we have a new memory. He continues to pick at loose threads around the hole torn by the Fathom King, tracing one through his childhood back to a sunny day on the seashore. Sandcastles, umbrellas striped red and white, intense brightness, and then a sting. My first encounter with a jellyfish. More stings, more threads, winding through classrooms, aquariums, hands emerged in tanks, bare legs wading through pools. He wanted one as a pet, but he wasn't allowed. Someone told me it wasn't appropriate. Can't imagine why. Let's descend down further. Time warps in these lightless trenches. Hours are days, days are weeks, weeks are years, and years are fleeting moments. You mark their passage, not with any clock, but by counting the bolts that pop loose. 1 ping, 2 pings, 3, 4, 5. They ricochet around the cabin, bouncing from wall to wall. Too much pressure. The Youthful Naturalist is quick with emergency calc. He fills the holes. The calc fills your sinuses with fumes. Headaches bloom. Blood dribbles from your nose. 6, 7, 8. More calc, more fumes, more decades in the dark. A new memory? You feel the light beating down when he describes sunbathing on a boat. Seagulls cry in a clear blue sky. His colleague is saying something, but it's so hot. He's too lazy to listen. She dives into the water, coming up later. Like the most beautiful mantis you've ever seen. She laughs and calls him a handsome mermaid himself. They're on a scientific voyage, collecting samples with other scholars, and she's just found a few more. He traces the memory's thread, pulling gently, and mollusks spill from her net across the deck. He starts to sort them, but it's the shells he remembers the most. Glossy black, he says, staring through the porthole. Endlessly black, with perfectly whirled ridges. Exactly like little spirals. Descend. Living gills pump fresh air into the diving bell. Water filters through metal grills, webbed with amber, oozing oxygen, until the metal begins to buckle. Grill by grill, the gills collapse, crushed by the mounting pressure. 19, 20, more bolts popping. More noxious calc, and now the fumes truly marinade you. 21, 22. What is that calc? FF Gerbrand's Superior Postal Adhesive, says the naturalist. Normally used to seal envelopes with volatile messages. Illegal without a license, obviously. New memory? His words are your ballast. You sink into the hole in the naturalist's memory. You look around at the jungle's rustling leaves that fringe the pit. Fires kindled in midnight camps. Emerald eyes. Tigers watching. He lifts a machete to hack through looping vines like intestines. Merchants haggling. Camels spitting. Dunes rolling away beneath the mountain's light. Waves rolling away behind the ship. The captain's beguiling nephew offer him a cigar. The smoke curling in languid spirals, the false stars rotating above. At the dock there was a woman with too many suitcases. You dropped one. Moon pearls started bouncing out. You can see them as he speaks, skittering in circles. Descent? You haven't eaten in ages. The youthful naturalist is nothing but skin and bone, muscles withered to strings, eyes sunk in sleep-deprived sockets. Down, down, down. No sign from the compass that you're any closer. The needles still hum with the same frequency. They still point directly downward. The crack in the porthole continues to grow, spiderwebs branching across glass. More light bulbs flicker and die. 52, 53, but there's no more calc. He rocks back and forth, holding his skull. Maybe this was a mistake. Wouldn't be my first. Coming all the way down here, thinking I could learn something. I should have stayed on the surface. At least I could have died in the sun, not in this miserable pit. His face is lit by greenish light. Foxfire candles burn in a richly appointed parlour. All plush velvet, silver, polished ebony. The man standing behind him puts a hand on his shoulder. Take heart, says the Bishop of St. Fiacres. Every soul has its dark night. The naturalist sits across from you in the diving bell, in the bishop's parlour. And in the gulf between you both, between the years, the void ripples, extruding tentacles. Let's descend. The Untersee is an abyssal fist around your diving bell. It squeezes. The metal crumples. 64. 65. All the surviving gauges burst, one after another, like clockwork firecrackers. Wires hiss and writhe. Water drips onto your head. 66. The youthful naturalist is praying to salt and storm and stone. They answer by blowing a gasket, and he promptly damns them to a triple hell. By now the porthole is fully fractured. Only some impossible tension still holds the shards together, locked in a razor-sharp jigsaw. The darkness taps, no slaps, against the glass, like a tentacle knocking to come inside. Another memory? Years woven together, tomorrows stitched to yesterdays, give shape to his sobs and smiles, his evenings bent over books, his morning constitutionals. You follow one vibrating thread in his life's tapestry. It runs below the Untersee, around islands, spiralling to the surface through the Cumaean Canal and back again. It snakes through drawing rooms and honey dens, through mirrors, nightmares, morgues. It coils decades into the past, running across a tessellated floor, climbing onto a great desk. The desk is sigils scored, covered with legal documents, banknotes, bills to foreign powers, fountain pens dipped in venom, and a significant paperweight, a lodestone hewn from a meteor's heart, emblazoned with sentient script. A single talon extends precisely at the right moment, but casually between signing import tax forms, and nudges the paperweight. Tremors travel along the connecting thread, small at first, then larger, larger. New causes, new effects, calculated by the red science. Births, ambitions, destinies, death. A talon? Would that mean a master? Let's descend further still. Darkness seeps through the porthole. Shadows drip on ruptured instruments. 71. You can't move without cutting yourself. You can't breathe without inhaling fumes. 72. 73. Down, spiraling deeper down. One valiant fin still flutters to keep the diving bell on course. The others are stubs. It occurs to me, says the naturalist, that we might not make it. His expression is ghastly. 74. If you didn't know better, you'd think that you were looking at a skull. 75. Hollow eyes, grinning teeth. You watch him rock back and forth until the last light bulb goes pop. Send. 77. One final bolt pops loose. It plops into the water. You shouldn't be able to see in the dark, but you can. Green radiance ripples from the depths. You glide downstream with the youthful naturalist, still watching him rock back and forth. More plops in the water. Oars. He's rowing you, leaning forward, pulling back. His flesh has withered to nothing. His jaw is green, lit by the glowing ripples. His eyes are black holes. His grin is eternal. Pearly teeth without a tongue. But even without a tongue, the boatman can still talk. Oh. Well, I guess we died, huh? But the naturalist has turned into the boatman? You're sitting across from the boatman. He dips his oars. Green ripples spread through black water. Between those ripples, the shadowy depths brim with tentacles. Petrified, perfectly still. There must be thousands. You're floating above a mass grave. Monstrous corpses entangled below the surface. Occasionally, the boatman has to push one away with an oar and row against the current. You're not dead yet. You're drifting dangerously close. Your own oars hum in your hands, vibrating like compass needles. This boat always have spares. You're floating along a tributary that feeds into a larger river. With all your might, you row against the spiraling currents. The boatman indulges you for a moment. So we can discuss the youthful naturalist. Are you, speaking to him now? Is that impolite to ask? We can discuss the stone tentacle key. It bears a suspicious resemblance to those tentacles in the water. Or we can discuss the Bishop of St. Fiacres. His Grace has apparently been bargaining with the boatman's twin. Let's start with the youthful naturalist. His smile is so familiar. We are equals in oblivion. I am him, he is me. He chuckles, laughter rattling in his skull. This isn't oblivion, but oblivion is just downstream. His flesh will die. his identity will die. Any differences between us, they will die. He plies his oars. But not yet. I myself. Who myself might be, he doesn't clarify. His laughter rattles again. He's watching you intently, for somebody without eyes. Watching your wounds bleed. With each heartbeat, he rows further downstream. We could only ask one of those questions? Damn. I'd like to know the answers to the others. Maybe they'll come back here. Row against the current again. You're not dead yet. We can ask the others. Wonderful. Let's discuss the stone tentacle key. It bears a suspicious resemblance to these tentacles in the water. Shells, says the boatman. Molted. He prods a tentacle with an oar, turning it like driftwood. Chunks break away. You can see that it is hollow inside. Deep under the river, that's where it lives. The flukes denied it, outcast, condemned to the abyss, their greatest shame. All other regrets perish there eventually. But the regret beyond death survives. It sheds its old bodies. They accumulate. In one tentacle's petrified coils, you glimpse a key above the water. As you will, says the boatman. You reach for it, cut your fingers. The key, which is the tentacle, sinks. Row against the current once more. We can discuss the Bishop of St. Fiacres. His Grace has apparently been bargaining with the boatman's twin. Freezing wings slice your face. The air is aflutter with frost moths. Twin? No, they are my kin, in a sense. We both served the same table once. Sparkling mist, enshrouding the swarm, chills the water to ice. The boatman's oar breaks it apart. Shards float downstream. My kin craves my liberation. One larger frostmoth alights. Its face is elongated, white, like a porcelain mask. The bishop has groomed my replacement to win their favour and their influence. He grins as he strokes the frostmoth, more likely than winning at cards. We have a crystallized curio. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Row against the current. And now we can discuss the river's course. You can't keep rowing back upstream forever, can you? None can row forever. He dips his oars again, still grinning, and paddles into the rapids. They could carry the boat on their own, but he rows even faster. You're spiraling towards a maelstrom. Swirling currents escort you around each revolution, closer to the abyss within the abyss. Your little craft clings to the great whirlpool's walls. The boatman paddling furiously. You can barely hold on. You look over the edge. You see more petrified corpses in a vortex. And at the bottom, where the water cascades into space, rainbows in the spray. Black tentacles, as beautiful as eclipses, uncoil. As you suddenly break the Z's surface, gasping for breath, you collapse on a deck in the open air, drenched to the bone, muscles like jellied eels. London's lights glitter in the distance. The lights of Hunter's Keep, the bustle of Wolfstack. You are near to home. We are really badly hurt though, oh my god. We gained an elemental secret. Beneath is the place where Earth puts the memories that shame her. This is such a memory. Where is the naturalist though? Has he actually become the boatman? Hunter's Keep is an engine's heartthrob away. His amused lordship's yacht anchored just off the coast. Strapping sailors man the ship, and servants with impeccable Z-legs see to your every need. At the moment, flopped on the deck like an incapacitated trout, your every need begins and ends with survival. But after you recover, a decent year wouldn't hurt. Perhaps some cheese to go with it. Do they have caviar? Let's speak to his amused lordship.
A new record! Never caught anything with a bank account this big before.
Lounging on a deck chair, you are pampered back to health. Wine to complement the ointment. Stitches paired with bat liver pâté, exquisitely pure laudanum.
I knew this research would be exciting, but I had no idea how much. All right, yes, also dangerous, illegal, but what isn't? When it's worth doing,
says his amused lordship.
And stealing from the Royal Navy. I can't wait to see the Commodore's face at billiards.
He explains how the Dillman Club tracked your movements. Well, the implacable detective did, uncovering the theft, interrogating Orthos, providing these coordinates near Hunter's Keep, where she knew you would need to surface. Although surface is polite, more like get hauled from the depths in your diving bell's mangled wreckage.
She's a ward,
says his lordship.
And the bishop too.
Wonderful. Well, the youthful naturalist is here. At your merest whim, hors d'oeuvres appear. Bottles in buckets of ice, oysters, and other, more neathy shellfish.
You will need a knife,
says his lordship. Crystal, silver, starched linen, accompanied by the dream interlude from the sailor's wife on violin. Is this, in fact, another dream? But when you see the wreckage, his lordship's crew is constantly fishing more onto the deck. One metal fin twitches, still trying to swim. So we can speak with the youthful naturalist. He's recuperating in his own cabin. Thin, but certainly no skeleton. What can you say to each other? Words are minnows, and even whales are too small. Resting his head on a pillow, he smiles faintly. His smile really is familiar now. So, he says, here we are. He's holding an empty specimen jar. The only one retrieved, in fact, from the Medusa's dream. All the others are shattered. It doesn't matter. Nothing to show for it. Not one damn barnacle collected. We still didn't dive deep enough. No, not deep enough to reach the regret beyond death. Not deep enough to harvest more stone tentacle keys. But deep enough to learn. Your knowledge burns. Let's speak with the implacable detective. You find her examining the salvaged debris from the Medusa's dream. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. She's probing the crushed compass with her walking stick. This, all this, she says, sweeping her stick to indicate the entire twisted pile and everything it represents, is astonishing. You've honestly impressed me. I'm impressed. She's also appalled. So many laws broken, consorting with the fleet of truth, flouting her own warning about aggravating the fifth city's powers. Tut tut, she says. Is that it? That's it? I spoke to your colleague. He's contrite, or regretful. Either way, you've both made me re-evaluate. Her old research? Oh no, that's destined to fail, but he's much sharper than I thought. I'd like to bring him back into the Dillman Club. Is someone about to get a shiny new lapel pin? We got 2 personal recommendations, that's pretty good. Let's speak with the Bishop of St. Fiacres. His Grace wishes to meet with you. Alone, where nobody can see or overhear.
I suppose you must know everything by now. My acquaintance with death has helped me avoid the river. A delicate relationship.
brittle as bone, you might say. You're sequestered into sooty darkness. Flames leap in furnaces. When I saw my chance for a stronger alliance, the bishop continues, eyes shining like reflected fire. Death's sibling is a chain breaker. Sometimes they conspire as the 12th month. Whenever they visit London, we take tea, or I'd have them stand beside us at the mountain's foot. With their aid, we could win the garden. He leans closer. If destiny takes its course. Wow, my renown with the church and the revolutionaries went up. That's an interesting action twist. Now we can discuss the Youthful Naturalist research. Whatever might happen next, the Dillman Club is very interested. Everyone is convened. The inevitable horse rot canapes have pride of place right next to his amused lordship. He samples them judiciously.
Well, this seems simple enough. She,
He begins, gesturing to the implacable detective,
wants him,
meaning the Youthful Naturalist,
back on our side. I am all for it. The man's a prodigy. He can study whatever he likes, and I'll cheer for him.
Not quite, replies the detective. We can reinstate his membership, but also decline to finance his current research. No more diving. Another expedition might test the masters.
But that's what he does. It's his expertise.
I agree, says the bishop. Offending the masters is almost traditional now.
Good man,
says his lordship.
I knew I liked the church for some reason.
Which is why, the bishop goes on, we should not remit him to the Dillman Club. Much as it pains me to say, I sponsored him once. I can't do it twice. So much for being simple. The Dillman Club continues to debate the Youthful Naturalist's membership. Their stated reasons for accepting him with qualifications, or rejecting him, don't always express their deeper agendas. The naturalist himself toys with the canapé, dissecting it like a specimen on his plate. He doesn't seem to be listening very closely. When his amused lordship calls upon you for a vote, however, the naturalist looks up with interest. Okay, so we can either vote with the Bishop of St. Fiacre. Am I the only one who sees the flattened diving bell? We've already gambled enough. Both his reinstatement and his research, I'm afraid, pose too much risk. We can vote with the implacable detective. We might need to officially disavow some of his experiments, but he's won me over. I'd like to work with him. His membership could benefit the club. Or we can vote with the amused lordship.
Let him come back. I'll open the door myself. Do I have to open my checkbook too? Tell me how much to write. Anything he wants to study deserves patronage.
Let's go with his amused lordship. That's the more fun option. The bishop rubs a temple while the detective quibbles. But his lordship already has the champagne. Before he can pop the cork, however, the Youthful Naturalist interjects. Champagne? And I thought the Dillman Club disliked me. Don't read into it, says the bishop. He'll drink champagne at funerals. In that case, pop it, says the naturalist. I'm flattered, but I don't intend to accept. If I had more stone tentacle keys, well, I'd be able to forge my own path, but I have to keep walking forward, not back to the Dillman Club and my old life. His amused lordship claps the naturalist's shoulder.
I said I'd support you, and I will, even in this.
Then he pops the champagne. His amused lordship's noble garter sails to rendezvous with your ship. Once you disembark, the Dillman Club will return to London. The bishop has a reservation at Dante's Grill that he can't miss, and his lordship still needs to iron out more wrinkles with the shuttered palace. Concord Square expects reports from the implacable detective, which she assures you will be written to produce tactical, bureaucratic effects. Before you leave, though, come to my cabin, says the detective. I've been thinking a great deal about your colleague. there's something I have for you two. Go meet with the implacable detective. He locks the door and pulls out a little drawstring pouch. I've discouraged everything you've done, and yet you've done it. Tenaciously, expertly. Even your failures astound. Now I can't help it. I wonder, what else? He opens the pouch. Keys clink onto the table. I've been saving these for today, apparently. The Youthful Naturalist lifts one, mesmerized. Then he lifts another, inspecting them like precious gems. Tell me this isn't a dream, he murmurs. It's an organic mineral compound. There's one other thing I can give you, a map, but you'll have to wait. I still need it. Not for much longer, though. After that, I'll wash my hands. Whatever you do next, I can't be involved, but I can hope to be impressed. The naturalist is grinning so wide. His face truly does look like a skull. This is where the chapter ends. When evolution resumes, only one parting coda remains. The Youthful Naturalist will meet his fate in the 7th and final chapter, in Irem. Wonderful. Am I still out to sea? God damn it, I gotta go back to London. But that is the end of the 6th chapter of Evolution, and I enjoyed that very much. This is going to be quite a long episode, but it was very fun. So thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you again to the members of the channel. It really does help me make these videos. And as always, I'll see you next time.